So, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Motivational Monday. I'm your boy, Destrian Wells. I'm joined by my illustrious co host, Mr. Cousin Ned. We have the leadership on the call is typical Mr. Donnie Somerville, Mr. James Vassar, and a host of other leaders. Tonight is not about us, tonight is about you. What we do on every Monday, or we try to do every Monday as consistently as we can, is to better build our people, rounding out the person. Understanding that yes, we come together in an effort to take profits out of the market, but more importantly, what are we going to do with those profits when we get them? However, one of the again most important currencies that we have are our relationships. The value of your relationships typically dictate where you land in life and where you ultimately end up. It was said to me by a mentor, and I've heard this repeated by several others. So, there must be some truth to it. Is that the five people you spend the most time with, you become the sixth one of those people. Well, I think we're fortunate enough as a community that we have so many people here, like-minded, that we're spending time together. That it's very easy to wake up and become the sixth one of those individuals. And all of us are trying to do exactly what this church say: create a legacy for our families, right? And so, with that being said, tonight is no different. We have an amazing guest who has decided to come. And again, in honor of International Women's History Month, we're featuring our female leaders, some of the very best and brightest in our community. We want you to support them in all the endeavors that they have. But what I want to do at this point, I want to yield the floor for just a moment, and welcome to those of you who are joining us now live on Facebook as well. Welcome to Motivational Monday. But I want to yield the floor for just a moment to Cousin Ned, talk about some general housekeeping, give a little bit of background about our presenter who's coming on tonight. And again, for those of you who are just joining us or joining us live tonight, we're going to talk about the value of relationships. We're going to dig deep. And so invite a friend, invite a loved one, share this information. No monopoly on good information. So, Cousin Ed, with that, I'm going to pause, man, and I'm going to give it to you to tee up our guest speaker for tonight and also talk about housekeeping.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I got to give hats off to you, my brother. We're doing this together. So Motivational Money, like he said, is about y'all. So we wanted to make sure we bring people to you that can bring value to your lives and change your lives. And this young lady that I had the honor of meeting actually through my father. My father's been on many of these shows, and he said, I got somebody for you. And that's my dad. I got to value his opinion. So she's actually somebody that I had a chance to talk to for an extensive amount of time and said, yes, Destrian, we got somebody. We got a gym here. Destrian and myself had a chance to speak to her, and that conversation was just golden. So I bring to you today, or we bring to you today, Ms. Devon Croom. She is an established author. She's a marriage and life coach. She's also accomplished, I say Fortune 100 company, but they're not on the stock market, but they one of the companies that you visit every day out there. But she's established in that company in the HR field. She has a vast knowledge of world experiences, and she's a mom of 5. So I want to leave that last. She's a mom of 5. So things that our community, that many of you have experienced, she coaches on it, she relates to, and she is down to earth. You'll get a chance to meet her in a second. A little bit of housekeeping. One thing I want to speak about, make sure that we are mindful of her time and our time. Make sure you can use the chat. Most of your questions, raise hands. As always, we will open the mic. It is a conversation between us and the community. We want to make sure that everybody gets their question answered. But due to time, we want to make sure you raise your hand inside of the chat. Lastly, also, she will be back. We talked to her. Not everything will be accomplished tonight, but it's so much that she has to offer. So she will be back. If y'all don't mind coming off of mute, as we always do, and welcome our host and our guest, Ms. Devon Croom.
Let's go, fam. Give it up.
Hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome.
Well, that was excellent.
Welcome.
As you can see, we are a diverse community, and we welcome you to the call. I'm not sure if you're on mute right now, but like I said, this conversation will be just a conversation. So welcome to the call. We welcome you to the community. This is Global FX Trade Club. This is our Motivational Monday. How are you doing this evening?
I am wonderful. Hey, family. Great to hear you all. Love to hear your voice. Thank you for all the chats. I'm honored to be here. Cousin Ed, thank you for reaching out to me. I'm just here to show up and show out, allow God to show through
Yes.
his light to show through me and to be a vessel, and also to just serve in any way that I can. So I have a lot to share. So I'm excited. So let me know when it's time because I'm ready for it.
Let's
we
go.
ready. We're ready.
Perfect.
So as always, we'd like to know a little bit of background about you. Can you introduce yourself to the community? I know my introduction cannot. I try to do my best, but your background is so extensive. If you don't mind telling the community about yourself, we always joke around. We want to hear about you when you was a little girl sitting on the pot, but let's bring it forward too.
Perfect. So thank you for the intro. And just to piggyback on that, I was born and raised in Newport News, Virginia. I am a wife. My husband is a veteran. His name is Daryl. He actually did 20 years in the Navy. He retired as a quartermaster. He and I currently live in the northern part of Atlanta, north of Atlanta, I should say, and here in Georgia. And as you mentioned, we do have a blended family of 5, 4 girls and 1 boy. My husband and I, we both have served as life group leaders for our church. I am first generation MBA. I am an IT manager, and I have been in technology, telecommunication over 21 years now. I'm excited to say that I'm an author of Abused But Not Broken, and that title was labeled that way for a reason. It is available on Amazon, and actually if you go to my website at devon.com, devoncroom.com, you'll be able to get an autographed copy. In addition to that, I'm a certified life coach and owner of the company called DC Consulting 7 LLC. My mission as a faith-based life coach, marriage and life coach, my mission is to help single and married women identify barriers set by strongholds, transfer mindsets to build character traits that will withstand life adversities. And you all may ask, well, that's huge and powerful, but I want you to pause for a minute because I don't look like what I've been through. So if I give you a tap of my history, I was violated at a young age. I'm a survivor of an abusive relationship. I had humble beginnings, meaning stretched 5 cents over a month period to make what I needed to have done for me and my kids. I am a survivor of COVID. So just I highlight my husband, well, back in 2020, when COVID first hit the States, my husband and I and other family members tested positive for COVID, and my husband was on a ventilator for 17 days. And as you guys remember back then, 5 days was fatal. So thank God. Oh, but God, he's here, he's doing well, healthy. And though, if you consider, based upon how my life started, statistics shows that I should have been oppressed, depressed, and suppressed. But again, but God. You can learn more about the details that in my book. Again, is Abused But Not Broken, available on Amazon. So I paused a little bit. I know I said a lot, but that's just a tap a little bit into my background.
I love it. I love it. So listen, family. So we're 90 seconds into it, and I think you all can see why we were captivated and why we wanted to make sure that Ms. Croom had the opportunity to talk to the group. But more importantly, now we have the opportunity to learn from her. So I guess what we'll start at is just your journey. Like understanding where you have been and where you are today. You talked a little bit about your background, your husband's background. What drives you? What motivates you? And why? Because we share this similar passion around relationships. I'm also certified. What made you decide that you wanted to be the change in the world that you wanted to see?
That's an awesome question. So for me, it's all about the people and our people specifically. Growing up, I know how I felt to be alone, to feel abandoned. And I didn't have anyone there like a mentor or role model that can share with me how to get from point A to point B, mentally and physically. So one of the things that I'm passionate about is a servant leadership as well. And I never understood why God allowed me to go through the challenges that I was able to face, because most people would look at me and say, I should be in a mental home, because they can't understand why I'm still smiling. So because God allowed me to go through it, I intentionally want to be the change I want to see and be that voice for those that cannot speak. And in addition to that, be the source for those who actually was in the same exact shoes I was in. And being a certified life coach for both life and marriage, it gives me the opportunity to help not only singles, but also married couples.
I love it. I love it. Because then when we were talking and you said, hey, I have a person that I think you need to meet. And I said, anybody that you know, I want to know. One of the things that you mentioned was the fact that from a faith perspective, like the faith was so strong, and it seemed to be something that you guys had a common bond on. Ms. Croom, can you talk a little bit about the role your faith plays in your success and your relationships?
Oh, absolutely. So trust me, it wasn't always this way, because whenever I ran into a situation at a young age, I always went to a friend, a family member, and if they couldn't find me the answer what I was looking for, but I always looked for a man to help me in the next step, until God put me in a position where I was stuck in a corner. I had no choice but to rely on him. So when I learned to learn more, when I leaned to learn more about Christ, and what that looked like is me studying the word for myself, surrounding myself with like-minded individual. Because to your point, if you want to see a person's future, pay attention to the core five that they're around, and that is a true statement. So with that being said, um, having a sponsors of established, solid mindset individuals of different areas, age, and backgrounds gave me a wide perspective on how far, if God needs to deep down and grab you from where you at to the pits and pull you up where you need to be. That is the message that I got from my team. So allowing me to survive what I went through, and still have a clear state of mind. My kids are well, I'm doing well. That to me allowed my faith to grow. So now I know God has to be first in everything. Matter of fact, when I met my husband, I told him, you can't do me the way Jesus can. So if God is not
Amen.
first in your life, then you may want to consider dating someone else. So that's how important it is to me.
Hey, if hey, you got to walk it. If you're gonna say it and be about it, you gotta do it. I want to
So
dig a little bit
she
deeper.
ain't asked about the purse. She ain't asked about the pocketbook or anything. She said God
Nah,
first.
It's
right,
true.
right, right. Not first.
That-
Let's dig just a little bit deeper now. For our community, for our people, and for those of you that are on Facebook that are watching, you talked about the faith. You also talked a little bit about the trauma. How do you value, or how do you position relationships or qualify people to be in relationship with you in your life based on the things that you've experienced? And what would you suggest for someone who's maybe been through some of the things that you've been through in terms of qualifying people to even be in their life, in terms of being in relationship with others?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And um, for everyone as a whole, it's wise to talk. A lot of us have the mindset, especially us as a people, what goes in my house stays in my house, and you never talk
Hmm.
to anyone outside. And that is how mindsets never get shifted. That is how strongholds get stronger, and that's how healing never takes place. So if I was to speak to our couples, is to, when it comes to you two, you and your significant other, whether it's your fiance or your spouse, listen to understand, not listen to respond. Because a lot of us have a tendency to say, I have the last word, it's my way or the highway. Because you all are both broken individuals that came together. So you got to understand there's a lot of healing that needs to take place. And a lot of us don't recognize that. And you want to know why, your spouse still hanging out with their friends, or, hey, this person doesn't meet me from an emotional standpoint. Well, you got to keep in mind, you both were broken when you got together. So you got to start the healing, right? So again, listen to understand, not to respond. The other thing is to know that change doesn't happen overnight. Mindsets change. And a lot of times back in the days, you hear, hey, my mom has been this way, my grandma's that way, my grandfather's that way. I'm never going to be beyond what they are. That is a lie. The mindset can change. The thing is, you got to be open and willing to do so. All right. And lastly, I would say replace I with we. In a relationship, it's not all about me, all about I, it's actually about we. It's about you and your significant other. And you never stop dating. I say that all the time, never stop dating as far as our couples. For my singles, love yourself. That's key. You got to love yourself, date yourself. If you need to take your own self to the movies, take your own self to the movies. You know, if you want to get up and wear your nice outfit and just walk around, drive to the nearby store, do so. Love yourself, because you cannot expect someone to love you more than you love yourself. Typically, the people that you are dating is a reflection of how you feel about yourself. Real talk. And keep in mind, you have to build standards. Don't settle. Because when you start settling, that's when you start getting, not to point fingers, but you have, relationships where people are of age, but they still have little boys or little girls mindset because they haven't grown up. So don't settle.
So let me
jump in right here.
Okay, go ahead, cousin Ed.
Real quick, because she talked about being broken young,
Yeah.
and you talked about that's so powerful. And I think right now, I know myself and Desmond always talk about the TV and television and things like that. We believe that it's keeping us in that stronghold that's keeping us down. How do you coach people out of that? The IG and the Facebook and the television and the housewives and all these shows that try to keep us down. How do you coach them out of that to build them back up?
Yeah, that's good. So in order, it takes 21 days for a habit to take place. And here's the thing, you won't ever heal what you will not face. So you have to acknowledge that you are putting your TV, washing your car, hanging out with your friends, maybe work, you putting that before your spouse or your significant other. You first have to acknowledge that. When you acknowledge that, that means that you're open, you're ready for change. Then you have to dialogue on what does a healthy communication look like for you and your significant other? Because everybody has a work schedule. Everybody is busy, right? So what does that schedule and what does that communication look like for you? What's your love language? What is your, what is it? What schedule, like every Friday, is that date night? And here's the other thing, reflection. This is something that a lot of us don't do. Reflection meaning my husband and I sit and talk every other day, no TV, no cell phone. We just sit and talk. We first start off by laughing back and forth on how we started dating. I told him how his pickup line was so weak. It wouldn't work in 2022. So, so I said, and to get us laughing and joking, right? And we role play, meaning that I may go to a store and we act like we don't know one another, and he try to pick me up, and I let him know you can get the digits or not. So we reflect. Yes, this is how you keep the relationship active and on. So we sit down, we reflect, we laugh, and we joke. So that's setting the foundation. Then we talk about how much we value and appreciate one another. See, back in 2022, my husband being on the ventilator, I didn't know if I was going to have him every minute of the day. I didn't know if he was going to come back. And when it comes to faith and praying, I remember getting up 2:00 in the morning praying to God, and I literally was grabbing in the air, pulling down. I said, God, don't take my husband. This is me watching on the news, hundreds, thousands of people passing away. I sit back and reflect, and I tell my husband some of the prayers I did when he was in a hospital. I let him know how I appreciate him. I get just because roses. And it's not all about material things, because what he does in his retirement years, I'm still working. So if I have a business meeting or if I have to go into the office at the time when the kids was home, he'll make sure the kids' homework is done. He'll sit back and cook. If we got to wash clothes, it's not all about what the women doing all those things, right? It was a partnership. So I reflect and I tell my husband how much I appreciate him. He tells me the same thing as well. And during that reflection time frame, we sit back and we talk about, hey, remember that time, 2 days ago or last week when we had a disagreement? This is how it made me feel when you said this. That reflection moment helped us continue to iron sharpen iron moments, so to continue to build as a relationship. We have a very solid friendship. He is my best friend, he's my soulmate, and we build upon that. So what I do is pour into couples. I empty my cup into couples as to best practices for my husband and I. And keep in mind, I'm not for everyone, and I get that. But I understand that what may work for me may not work for everyone else. But I give based on my academics, and I also give based on my experience what has worked. But again, what works for you works for you. And you and your spouse have to make that success look like. And we work together on what a successful plan look like.
I mean, that's phenomenal. That's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, so what I'm hearing, family, if you guys are following me again, those of you that are live, and then our group here, it requires work, and you have to show up to do it. And it sounds like you guys have an amazing formula that works for you. And what I would my follow up to that would be, you obviously had to go through some things to get to this formula. How can you grow through the trials to find your formula, whether that be, a relationship with your significant other spouse, or in business, what have you? Because I think that oftentimes we think that relationships are like this singular thing, but we're in relationship with so many people, and it pulls from us in so many ways. A lot of times we don't understand that we're exchanging energy and time with people that we may not think we're in relationship with, but we are. So, what would you say, for a person looking to find that formula? You said earlier, make sure you talk. What are you talking about when you're having those discussions?
Right. Talking about what makes you happy, what fills your cup up, what talks about what satisfaction look like to you. Now, this is not you pulling on a friend, single or married, or a relative. This is pouring on what your spouse wants. So that conversation talks about what does success look like, what you like and you dislike, right? What's your preference? And the thing is, you have to work at it. Just like any other relationship, you have to work at it. One of the other things that I learned at a very young age is that it's power in writing things down, similar to a vision board. This is before I even knew the term vision board. I write down exactly what I want to envision in any relationship, business, work, with my personal relationships. I write it down. I find scriptures that complements or that speaks to those type of goals and aspiration that I have, and constantly pray on it. But the key thing is you got to work at it and be patient. So that's what that looks like when you have those conversations.
Love it, love it. Because Ned, I'm gonna toss it to you.
Yes. So with it being Women's International Month, I'd like to speak to the women. We're right at the halfway mark, and want to focus more on the women in our community. I would say about 70% of our community is female, mothers, entrepreneurs. How is it for you to be a mom of five, being an entrepreneur, being an author? Speak to them about that, juggling time and doing time management. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So, hey, ladies, first thing I would say that you are enough, and you alone showing up, you don't need nobody else's help. So I want to empower you to know, don't let anyone downplay what you bring to the table, because we have a tendency to scoot to the background or think that we're not enough. But I just wanted to empower you all to know that you are enough. Time management, it is key. You have to prioritize. So in my perspective is God, then my husband, then my children, then business and work. So in that order is how I prioritize. Now, if there is an emergency situation to take place, of course, I address it at that time. But ladies, I encourage you to take care of yourself. Self-care is first, because if your cup is empty, you're not going to be your best self for anybody that comes along your way. So first, pour into yourself, whether it's that time for you getting your massage, your mani and pedi, going to a women's empowerment conference, whatever it takes, you ensure that you're strong enough for you. Secondly, when it comes to the next level of priority, you want to make sure you spend time in development. It's just like working out in the gym. If you go there one day a week, you're not going to build any muscles, right? You're not going to lose any weight. So just like you spend time in the gym, you have to spend time in that relationship, whether it's business, potential customers, whether it's at work or just family. And when you're in that relationship, you have to spend time and you have to put in the work.
Thank you, thank you. I know you spoke about your book earlier, and outside of myself and Destiny, but you also mentioned it on the call. You talked about some of your past. A lot of people, a lot of I'll say males and females, but like I said, I want to focus on the females. They don't speak on it for one thing, but also don't have healing from it. Can you speak on your past and some of the life coaching skills and things that may coping skills that may help them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And cousin Ed, Miss
Yes,
Croom,
sir.
could I just add something at the end of that? Because we want to be better for the women that we like, love, and care about. What cousin Ed just said, how do we better as men support our women who have gone through this
Mhm.
trauma and give them a space to talk about these things and understand it. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to tack that on to the end of it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So ladies and all the gents out there, pay attention to us, our body language. A lot of times I can speak for myself. I was a very irritable young lady. I didn't want to be too close to other males. And women, I would say a lot of times we will open up to one another because one, we're approachable. Two, we feel that women can understand one another. So one advice that I give everyone, as far as the ladies, is to empower one another and support one another. Be there for your sister. Even if you're going up the career ladder, you see one of us that's trying to go up the career ladder, be that iron sharpen iron mentor, go-to person for those ladies. If there is a moment where you see that, it's the summer months and somebody wearing long sleeve shirts, or if you recognize that it looks like the person comes in wearing glasses, those type of things that I myself did at a very young age. No one never tapped on my shoulder and say, "Hey, what's wrong? How can I help you?" So those are some of the things that I love to bring to your attention as women. If you see that, and men, especially approach a person if they're open, say, "Hey, is this something I can help you with?" So a lot of times help is a word that goes so far. But the thing is, sometimes we hear from our abuser that we're nothing, we'll never be nothing, no one else will care for you. You're never going to, it's always never, and you're less than. So a lot of times we won't use our voice to speak out and cry for help. But there's some of the spirit of discernment is one. Two, pay attention to body language. And three, when you see somebody dressing outside the norm, pull that sister to the side and let that sister know that you're there and care for them and get them to the right resources. Just to answer your question, Ed, when I was going through my situation, how I got out it is I confided in at least 3 people. And those 3 were my advocate. If there was an issue going on, or if I need to be picked up, those are ones that I can rely on, and they didn't repeat anything. So I encourage those that may be going through something, find someone that you can trust, and text someone, find out some codes. Like if you text 3 letters or 2 numbers, that means come pick me up at a certain address because I need help. So those are some of the things that you can do for those that's going through. Being broken, I tell you, I could not heal until I was ready to be healed. So also keep in mind, although you may see someone going through some challenges, they may not be ready. And you would see a lot of times women would go back to the abuser back and forth for multiple reasons. But I think that it's wise for us, when we know better, we do better, as Maya Angelou said. So if you see someone, confide in them. If not, at least speak up on their behalf and get some resources their way.
Definitely, definitely. I want to peel the onion back a little further. I know we had other conversations. I want to go back. I'm a, how do you say, girl dad,
Mhm.
and I've been very protective, and I think I told you and Destry this. I learned more about childhood abuse during my podcasting years that as young men we don't know about, especially with our sisters. And you may see it on TV, you may hear about it, but you don't know it's that prevalent, and there are that many predators that are attacking our young sisters, our young daughters, our young. It's just it's a shame, but I know we talked offline about it. I know you talked about it in your book, but that's part of the healing that I wanted to talk about also for some of our sisters that's out here, that there are resources about that. So can you speak on the young ladies, the children, the queens, the princesses out there that may have or may still be going through something like that?
Mhm. Yeah, so there are multiple resources. So one, your local social services always having their outlets in which you can leverage. Some people are scared of therapy. So, in our community, therapy is taboo, but therapy was one of the resources that I've leveraged. And being a life coach is one that focuses on how you can prepare for the future standpoint. I think it's wise to leverage resources such as therapy. Of course, those that have maybe going through it, has lived through it, still have some unhealed situation. I'm available. You have my information. Feel free to reach out to me, book some time, and we can walk together in healing on that journey. But my key thing is to find someone that you can confide into, and get yourself out of that situation. One of the things that I did learn at a very young age, my violator, certain looks he had. At first, it was hard for me to be around someone that looked like him. So, ladies and gents, when you're interacting with someone, all of a sudden you notice this person acts a different way when they're around someone. Pay attention to some of those clues because it could be a trigger for them. And that trigger and it could be, hey, this person reminds me of someone and I'm trying to, push away. So just throwing some things out there without going in details, but those are some of the things you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, I honestly think that's major because one of the things that I found, I deal in relationships every day. Part of my job is to go out and build them for corporations. The authenticity that it takes to truly even want to get to know a person,
Mhm.
I think we oftentimes overlook that because we've become so transactional as a society. We don't take the time to do the things that you're talking about, that human element, that emotional intelligence that you're exercising in your conversation right now to say, you know what, if I want to get to know you, I should pay attention to you. What triggers do you have? Those types of things. How can we be better at that? Because I think IQ and EQ, they're certainly different, but especially for my gentlemen that are on the call, we talked a little bit about reading the room, knowing signs. Are there things we should be reading outside of your book? Go get her book. But are there things that we should be reading, or are there things that we should be focused on in terms of our personal development to help us better identify those things and then support our sisters in those ways?
Yeah. So one is very important for you to um, create a space, a trustworthy space where you can learn from those that actually went through it. There are
Hmm.
several resources online, YouTube. There are courses, leadership courses that you can take to better understand those type of signs. I don't have a list of them, but I can definitely get those and post it for the audience.
Sure, sure.
But I think it's wise in order for you to recognize it's best for you to be available to those resources. And the other thing to keep in mind too is when when I was going through my situation, I overcompensated in a way where my girls, I would make sure that they wear like long dresses or didn't have
Hmm.
revealing clothes because I know what happened to me. And a lot of times we as parents will project what we went through. So that's another thing that we got to be mindful of, or if you notice from another person, like, well, why are you always that? Because you got to keep in mind there may be some personal experience that they're dealing with. But there's multiple resources. I've been more than happy to provide those, and we can actually send it to the audience for them to reference, especially our men, so you can be aware.
I think that's great because for me, I want to be, we talk about this in corporate, and I'm sure you hear it all the time, the equity and inclusion piece, but that's an action. The concept is fine. You need to be able to go out and put those things into action. And so I want us to put these things in action as a group here. And if we can start at home, then we can go into our communities and then we can start to spread these things out. And with that as a backdrop, I'm going to follow up on that. One of the things that I've personally experienced is when when you want to create the proper environment, a loving environment, but there's some trauma that has happened. Let's say you don't know, and I'm giving you a real situation that happened to me. Great friend of mine. We're having Thanksgiving. Young lady is there. She's probably 10 or 11 years old. Hey, Mr. DJ, can you pick me up for the picture? I want to be in the picture. I pick her up for the picture, and one of the women in the room ran over to me and she said, "You don't do that. Do not do that." And I didn't know what I did wrong, and I said, what's the issue here? How do we display love from a male perspective appropriately to our young ladies, especially when we're talking about building community? So this is not my daughter, this is not my child, but I'm great friends with her father. He trusts me, the mother trusts me, but onlooker sees the situation and, like you said, triggered. Boom, that happened to me, right? How do we create positive images of love for Black men, showing our young women, all of our women, that we're here for you to support you and to discern, like you talked about it earlier, that all of us are not abusers, but we need to have those positive images of Black love as well. What would you say to that?
Right.
Me help me unpack that.
Yeah, so let's deep dive with that one. So thank you for allowing me to have this opportunity, and thank you for giving me a transparent moment. One that I will always suggest is to thank her for speaking up, because that was
Mhm.
empowerment for her. Because in her experience, we don't know, but based on that trigger, we can indicate there was something there. In a
Absolutely.
one-on-one, not a group setting, maybe you and maybe one other brother or one other sister. So that environment for her is not like a one-on-one with another male, but it's you and someone else. So she can feel there's a group setting in a welcoming, safe circle. Once you apologize to her for your actions, right? Indifferent, just apologize for her because that empowers her. Then I would say, can you please explain to me what did I do that actually triggered you or made you say, you don't do that. Listen to her and she will explain eventually, hey, I had this situation happen to me, or I had this situation happen to my daughter. Sometimes they don't come all the way out and say it. However, if you just pause and listen, do not respond at that time, because it's her opportunity to feel empowered to voice her opinion. After you apologize, you listen, then you also say, tell me, how can I do things differently? And from your perspective, what are some of the things that I can do in the future that will not put anyone else in the same vulnerable situation? And then you let her know, hey, I appreciate you sharing with me, and I know how to moving forward. And a lot of times with young ladies, especially with females that may have had some experience in the past, they don't necessarily know when and how to articulate themselves in some ways. So being okay to be able to voice themselves, that's what they need. And one of the things you can do is an iron sharpen iron moment. Say, hey, I didn't know that was something that I should be mindful of, but because you shared that with me, I know how to do differently. Is there something that I can help you on? And see if she's open at that point, because she may confide in you and say, hey, I've never said anything to an individual that put me in that position, or I remember you talking, her venting is more than enough. She don't need you to solution anything. She mainly needs to speak, and you empower her to do so. And my thing is, you learn from her trigger, learn from her behavior. So if you see that again, you know how to respond. And one of the other things that you all can do as men and women too is look at your local women abuse shelter nearby, see if there's some volunteer opportunities, and listen to some of the stories. Especially in this COVID environment, there's a lot of hybrid opportunities where you can just listen in, advocate. Take advantage of those opportunities, because there are some extreme scenarios, stories that women are in a position that they can at least share. And again, that gives you another resource on how you can, be better prepared for the next time you see something along that line. And of course, you let the kids' parent know, hey, you know them, you have that personal relationship, but you just reiterate I didn't mean any harm behind it.
I mean, I appreciate your perspective. Honestly, I had never been more confused in my life, and what I will do because of the conversation that we're having, I'll double back and I will reach out, because the last thing I want to do is to have someone. We talk about this on this group a lot. I don't want to have her suffering in silence.
Mhm.
Maybe there's something there that we need to unearth, that we've been overlooking. Again, the parents were fine. She clearly was not, and I never want to put anyone in a position to feel that way. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. Listen, family, we're getting close to the top of the hour. We have about 10 minutes. We don't want to monopolize the conversation. We can certainly keep going because this is great for me. I feel like I'm on the couch. But if not, if if anyone from the group has anything that they want to bring forth, I really want you to be able to, because I think that this is a great opportunity to hear from our ladies. And then, gentlemen, also look, be vulnerable enough to admit what you don't know and ask questions to get information to improve yourself. So let's uh let's raise our hands. Let's come off mute if we can. Great opportunity to learn here tonight. And for me, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate the conversation that you had with me prior to this, but tonight I hope that the guys are listening, and ladies, I hope that you feel valued and validated, that we care about your mental well-being, and there is something going on that we can intervene and intersect on. We will do that because we are your family. So
And,
Yeah.
and
anybody
one of
out
the
there
biggest
had,
things,
go ahead,
one of the
bro.
biggest things that this is a safe place, and we have a
Right.
professional here that is family now, and she's here for us as a community. So this is a safe place. And I also wanted to tip my hat. Your coaching skills, what you just dissect for us was amazing. So I definitely
That was
have
that was
learned
that
something
was
just from that last. I mean, I learned something every time I speak to you, but that last segment definitely gave me a lot more nuggets. So, but definitely the floor is open. Please, even if you just want to say
let her
hello, come off a
let
mute
her let
and
her let her hear your voices. You guys know what we do here. Engagement is key. There, without engagement, execution is poor. So come off mute, be vocal, be heard. If there's a private conversation to be had, you can send a direct message to myself or cousin Ed, and we can look to try to schedule time for you. But we definitely want your voice to be heard. So let's have a conversation, y'all. Let's do what we do. Who's first? Y'all ain't shy.
I tell you one thing, I love that you said you have a trusting circle, and trust is key, and that's the only way we can open up. And a
Mhm.
lot of times to start that conversation, you want to express vulnerability. Brene Brown said it best. Your expressing your vulnerability is your strength, and to start those conversation with anyone, we're starting any relationship, whether it's about a trigger or not. Starting this personal story, share with them what your experience is, right? When you share those experiences and give your perspective, that opens the door of, hey, oh, you being vulnerable, so I can be vulnerable as well. So that's another golden
I
nugget I'd like
see.
to share.
I appreciate that, Miss Croom. I see my man out there. Big bro, come on off mute. AJ, Mr. Woodson, holla at your boy. What's up?
What's up? Good evening. Good evening. Um,
Good evening, bro.
Great conversation. Excellent, excellent guest family in the building now. Thank you, Ms. Croom. But one question I know, we often talk about, you got two ears for a reason, one mouth, so you should listen more. And you also talked a little bit about trust. Just in terms of breaking it down of how important listening is in terms of building and reestablishing trust on the parts of both men and women.
Yeah, that's good. So one of the advice that I first led off with is listen to understand, not to respond. A lot of times, individual that's expressing their heart, their vulnerability, we're quick to cut across them and make our last point. That does nothing but diminish what the point was. It's just like saying a but. When you're talking about something and you lead with the word but, it just eliminates everything you just said previously. So listen is very key. And it should be a time where you give an individual, whatever conversation, relationship, work, clients, business, whatever, it is important that you listen without interrupting to get a full understanding. And you can reverb or ad lib just to make sure you got a full understanding. That will give the person the confirmation and validation that they are heard. So that is something that's for a individual as well as with couples. And I believe you had a follow-up question. Do you mind repeating that second question?
The second half was just in terms of the importance of listening, rebuilding, or either establishing trust. How would the key part that it plays in that?
Yeah, establishing trust happens over a period of time. And what that fine time is, it depends on that relationship. So building, trusting situations, highs and lows, and you still being there for that other person will build that trust. When trust is broken, what you have to do is work 3 times harder. So what that looks like is not repeating the same steps that broke the trust, reiterating verbally as well as your actions on how you have changed the behavior that broke the trust. But again, within due times with positive behaviors, verbal and physical, right? The tactical part is follow up behind it, but reassure the next person that that trust is in a process of being rebuilt. But when it comes to rebuilding trust, you have to both agree that you cannot keep throwing those arrows back from the past, because you can't look backwards and expect to move forward. It's just like looking in your rearview mirror, right? Not paying attention to your future, you're focusing on your past, and you're not even appreciating the value of the presence. You now welcome in actually change behaviors that you see. So when it comes to rebuilding, not only do you have to speak from a future standpoint, speaking into existence, right? But you also have to continue to know and verbally reiterate to that person that you are a changed woman or man. And that's how you both incorporate the listening as well as trust as well as rebuilding. So I hope I answered that question for you.
You most certainly did.
Amazing. I think you did an amazing job doing it, because objects in your rearview mirror are always closer than they appear to be.
With a subtlety of patience in there too, because you said in due time. I know a lot of us are impatient when it comes to, I'm showing you I'm doing right. I've done it 3 days straight with a trust.
Yep. Patience. It doesn't happen overnight. You're absolutely right about that. But that's called work.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That's part of the work, being patient. So I'm sorry. I think it was another question.
Yeah. No,
yes,
no
we have the lovely
Amadi.
Queen Amadi.
Come on, talk to us, sis. What's up?
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much. Queen Amadi, I love it. Coach Croom, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. You've hit on some things this evening, honestly, just in terms of the dynamic, like that situation that Dextrian brought up between men and women. I think that's a dynamic we deal with often. I did want to ask a question. If you can kind of break down that term of broken or brokenness, and how you kind of attach that to a situation or to a person, because typically when I hear that word, and I don't know, maybe it's a trigger for me, when I hear that word, I attach it to such a negative connotation. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know, am I not processing that word right? Do you have a different perspective on what you call broken or what you call brokenness and how you attach it to a particular individual or a situation?
Thank you, Queen. That's a beautiful question. Actually, it's a good one. So it looks different in men than it does through women. So as women, we can relate on an emotional level, whereas men sometimes, hey, I'm macho. If I show some weak, crying or any soft skills, that means I'm weak. And that's just how they were raised. So from a male perspective, broken can be, hey, I don't show my emotions, or the way I have always been raised, and the mindset I have is that it's my way or the highway. I've seen it where, hey, my mom and dad relationship looks like this, so this is how my relationship should be. So that is the high level or a few examples from a broken perspective. From a woman perspective, is that I communicate by giving intimacy. I actually may not communicate at all, because each time I speak up, I was told, what's the right word to say? A shutdown immediately. So my voice was never heard, right?
Shut up and dribble.
That's it. Speak
Yeah.
when speaking to. So whenever your voice was actually, no one ever asked you your opinion or your perspective, because it was always what was told, and that's what you had to follow. Brokenness can be a sabotage, right? The mindset, that voice, that negative voice that always tell you that you're less than, you're never going to be anything, you can't get this done. Well, mama, grandma, and daddy, they never made it, so you're not going to make it. Oh, this person is here with you just because you have something. That's the brokenness. That's the mindset that we're dealing with. So when a lot of times what relationships get together could be all just physical. It's all physical. It's never about the mind. So when you grow old, health comes into play. Sometimes that may not be the case. Then what? So think about the relationships where you see people have been married for 20 and 30 years. The kids go off to college. They're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know you. It's time for a divorce. It's because it's never a foundation of getting to know one another. And they never really identified themselves as an individual, dealt with whatever was broken, and learned to have a foundation of friendship and understanding what healthy relationship looks like, what success look like one another, and learning in each other from an individual perspective and marrying the two. So it was never that foundation. So just give you some highlights from a woman perspective and a male's that I have seen in my experience as to some of the brokenness. I can give you a personal example because I'm an open book. When my husband and I were dating, he was like, yeah, I don't do ties. Like, I'm not giving a man my money. That's it. So in my eyes, and it's just, again, a personal perspective, my eyes, that was not only a way of worship, but that is something that I know that was very important in regards to my relationship and our Christian walk. So we had two different perspectives, and it was based upon our experiences up to that point. So with compromising, having not only a life coach, but also having meetings of the minds, we learned what success looked like for our relationship, and we have propelled from there. Long answer, but I hope I answered it for you.
Come through. Come through. Anybody else out there with a question? I think I have a few. I might have said that definitely helps me. I think when we think about being broken, part of the negative connotation is the person that's giving you that message that you are. So the negativity is probably coming from the communicator of the message, because we're all broken in some way. Because we need to heal and we need to fix ourselves. I mean, we talk about continuous improvement, continuous learning, lifelong learning. All those things are a precursor to not being perfect, and nor do you have to be. You just need to want to defeat yesterday and be better. And as long as you're willing to do that in conjunction with the people in your life, I think you're on the right trajectory. But absolutely tap into the skills and the practices that Ms. Croom is talking about. I know there are other questions out there. Raise your hand, come off mute, talk to us. Let's go another 5 or 10 minutes so we can be respectful of our guest time. I have a few people that are on the call tonight. I encourage you all to come off mute. tap into the resources while we have them. So if I invited you to this call tonight, where you at?
Real quick before they come off of mute, let me just, or I want to read a text. I have a person who's on the call. And they didn't want to get called out, but they said this call has been very impactful to them. They said thank you very much. They said I'm over here in tears. She's touched so many things that have been part of my life. I cannot speak publicly about yet, but I will reach out to her.
Amen.
Outstanding.
I appreciate it.
Outstanding.
That's what I'm here for. Again, being the change that I want to see and be the voice for the voiceless. Getting my book out there, being transparent is not well received with many because it's like it goes against the rule of you're not supposed to tell your story, and how dare you come out and talk about your vulnerability, right? But I think I know that's how we can heal. And this is not an easy subject. This is not something that you speak on and keep it moving on with your day. This is something that you take time and you really, really need to peel the layer back on the onion, because when that unhealed trauma or that child in you has not dealt with what needs to be worked with, it's going to show up in your relationship or the lack of. It's going to show up in your work relationships. Let's say if you have the mindset, of all women is this way and all men is that way, you're going to reflect in a very indirect way on how you relate to certain men or women or characteristic traits in your work environments, let alone your potential clients. So keep in mind, it's important to do the work by looking at the man or the woman that's in the mirror. Once you get him or her whole, you will be a better person, a greater resource to those that you come in contact with.
Yeah,
Iron
those
sharpen
those
iron.
those unconscious biases will come out in a minute. I mean, they will jump microaggressions. They'll jump right out. This has been great for me. If this has been good for you, drop some ones in the chat. Just drop a few ones in the chat if this has been good for you. We know that sometimes we have to have uncomfortable conversations in order to make progress. And personally, I think that it's our responsibility to facilitate those conversations. And so we want to have healthier dialogues between men and women, specifically in our community. And the only way for us to get better is to have those uncomfortable conversations. So I want to personally thank you on behalf of Global FX Trade Club for coming here tonight, being your amazing self in International Women's Month. And I hope that you guys will go follow her, support her, and this will not be the last time you hear from her. But what I want to do right now, Cousin Ed, before I want you to have the last word tonight. But before we close, I want to open the floor to our leaders, James, Donnie. I think James is in transit. He may not be able to come off. But Donnie, if you're out there, man, if you have any comments about
Real
tonight,
quick before you do that,
housekeeping for the
real quick
group.
before you do that,
Go.
I'd like to get Miss State, Stacey Fowler, a chance as one of our queens and our mother. She was on the call before the call as she started. I want to make sure I give her opportunity as
Okay,
the
perfect.
matriarch of the group.
Well, wow. Cousin Ed, why you putting all that pressure on me? What's up?
Ain't no pressure. Ain't no pressure. Do you?
Thank you so much, first off, Miss Devon. I mean, this has just been absolutely wonderful. It is so, you know, if you talk to most of the people who came to this trade club, they came here to learn how to trade. We did not realize how much value and how much growth and how much healing we would get out of this group and out of these individuals that we call our family. And I'll be honest, these people we haven't really seen each other face to face unless we all live like in the area, like Donnie and James, they live in St. Louis. So yeah, I could see them because an Ed is on one coast and Destrin's on another coast. But if you tell me that they're not my family, I'd be like, no, that ain't so, right? And so, but the fact of the matter is, this type of, I've told the leadership that I'm so excited about how we came for one thing, but we're getting so much more in areas that we didn't even know we needed the help in. And when we can have a dialogue like today to talk about those things that we are not supposed to talk about, or to begin to address those things that we don't even realize have traumatized us, and, you know, put in place what I'm going to call the fear factor to keep us from being successful, because we keep hitting that wall and we can't quite get it. It's these kind of conversations that begin to help us grow, because trading, we want to make money, but it's so much more to just making the money. You know, you can make the money, but how do you keep it? How do you sustain it? How do you deal with some stuff when you self-sabotaging everything you do because you've been traumatized and you haven't healed in some places that you don't even know you need to heal in to grow. So I appreciate, yes, Amani, you got it, the wholeness. Yes, I appreciate the leadership and how we are transforming and and helping us grow just beyond money, making money, learning a skill, but how do we just transform and really build a legacy for our families in terms of what we want to? Because we thought we was doing it one way, but it's all of this. So thank you. It's individuals like you who come and share your time, talents, and gifts with us who help us be better. Thank you.
Oh, it's my honor. It's my honor. And to your point, and when we have the mindset, irrational thoughts, irrational behavior as far as not being good stewards over our finances, we have a mindset that will put us in a box. And in that box will have lack of confidence, right? We won't be able to acknowledge or recognize when it comes to leveraging our emotional intelligence, just our
Mhm.
cognitive behavior in itself. So it has a domino effect if we don't heal the man or woman that's in the mirror. So I am honored to be here. Again, I'm just that vessel that's going to be used. I don't get the credit at all. It's God himself, because if you knew what I've been through, if you ask anybody that knew me from the age of 7, they're unable to explain to you in words why I'm not part of a mental institute or not dead. So I'm here for a reason. I'm here to pour into you. My goal each day is to empty my cup. And how I get filled is by our maker himself, God himself. And I'm ready for the next vessel, the next person to pour into. Again, faith-based is what I use. Again, it's not about me. It's all about you. And being a voice to the voiceless and helping our communities is where I strive in. And it's all about our people.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Donnie, I'm gonna come to you, brother.
Amazing. Ms. Croom, thank you, thank you so much. You know, there's so many things to say, and I'll be very, very brief. Um, I don't even really know where to start. Again, thank you. Um, what a wonderful way to end our Women's History Month here at GFXTC. Family, do me a huge favor. Let's come off mute. Let's clap it up for Ms. Croom. Let's clap it up for yourselves, right? Um, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you.
You know, when James and I, we had an idea and we started this company, um, we had always envisioned it being more than just about trading, right? Um, I guess we got you, right? Because people want an additional streams of revenue. People want to know how to tap into the markets, grow their money, right? They want independence. They want to be successful, right? But it's not just all about money. And I think that Global FX Trade Club is proving that. We call it offense and defense. And to be able to bring guests on to enlighten and empower the total man, right, and woman. Um, just amazing. You know, every time I say, and I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm going to say it again. Like, I thought the last speaker was the best. This time this week is the best. Like, it just keeps getting better and better and better. And more importantly, we are really tapping in, and I believe helping people. And that's what Global FX Trade Club is all about. Because when you can be healed and when you can be whole in your finances, in your relationship, right, in your body, spiritually, that's what matters, family. That's what matters. So trading the finances is just part of what we're doing. I want to give it back to Destrian Wells. I want to give back to Cousin Ed for the idea of putting this together and doing what you're doing. Again, your labor of love doesn't go unnoticed, and we really do appreciate your leadership. And I definitely want to speak on behalf of James as well. I know he's not able to do so at this time, but again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
My honor. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate you and James as well, bro. What I want to do at this time, I know we are a little bit beyond the hour. Cousin Ed, I don't know if you have the video queued up or if you want to drop that in the chat, but I did want to do two things. We can share the video for those who have the ability to stay, but I also wanted to give you closing remarks, but also allow Ms. Croom to let everyone know where they can find her, or if they require or need the services that she has, how they may contact her directly, or you can again contact myself, cousin Ed, and we will make the warm introduction for you. We do not want you to suffer in silence. We want you to be whole. We want you to start the process of healing. And guys, let's be supportive and do this together. So let's better educate ourselves on how we can support our women. And we want to create those spaces for them to be able to feel comfortable being vulnerable. So, cousin Ed, I'm gonna give it to you.
Well, definitely, I'm trying to cue this up now. The biggest thing I really want to mention is my dad. I want to mention my dad for introducing me to you. This has been very, very touching, very, very heavy. I will say this much, and Destrian probably will agree. This is one of the only calls we've had where the community has not spoken up. And I'm not putting that out there as pressure. I'm saying that this is something that has touched them so that I think it's a difficult conversation. And like I said, I've been podcasting for a while, and this is one of the most difficult conversations to have and to learn about. We as leaders and members of Global FX Trade Club, myself and James, Donnie, we're here to support our sisters, our mothers, our wives, our aunts, our uncles. I mean, every female out there, we're here to support. And we wanted to have this conversation. We knew it would be difficult, but we wanted to have an open platform for y'all. Like Destrian just mentioned, we will be here as facilitators to actually get you in contact with Ms. Croom. I put her website out there on the chat several times. Let me put it back out there again. I've dropped it out there. You can reach out to her yourself. You can go on her website and learn more about her. But this conversation tonight, she hit so many areas. We've already asked her, but I want to ask her publicly, are you willing to come back and talk to us and break down a couple more parts and factors of our lives?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you again for the opportunity. I'm a woman of many hats, woman of a lot of experience. So I didn't even touch on a third of what I typically do. So for those that are interested, and what I want you to do is be very intentional. Now, when you think of reaching out to me, I want you to also factor in your friend and your family member that you need to be the voice for. And if you need to connect with me on their behalf, let's do that. Because in order for us to have an iron sharpen iron moment, we got to be the voice for the voiceless. And being from taking in consideration our learning from a corporate world, bringing it back to our people, there are different outlets and different resources that is in place where we can give back. So with that being said, factor in those that you know that needs it. I can be reached on Facebook as well as through Instagram at Coach Devon Croom. And as Cousin Edge has posted, I have my personal website is devoncroom.com. Feel free to reach out to me, book a time for a session, and I am willing to help walk along with you in this journey called life, just to propel you to the next level.
We definitely appreciate that. Family, it's not much to be said. You heard it from her mouth yourself. She is definitely, like she said, I believe, and you heard for yourself, she's a vessel that God has sent to us and has been blessed tonight with. I just want to make sure we come off of mute and thank her for this evening. Let her know that her voice has been heard and appreciated.